Consent to participate in any aspect of sexual activity is key. Without consent, actions become unwelcome and involuntary. Consent is given through affirmative words or actions that say, "Yes, I want to do this." If someone shrugs their shoulders or gives no response, there is no consent. So how do you determine consent? All individuals in a sexual encounter must agree to it. Any person may decide at any time that they no longer consent and they want to stop the activity. Consent to one behavior does not obligate the individual to consent to other behaviors. Consent on Tuesday does not mean consent on Wednesday. The only way to be sure consent is given is to not assume, just be sure to ask. All parties are not always capable of giving legal consent. For example, incapacitated individuals cannot give consent. Someone who is drunk or high on drugs, even over-the-counter drugs, cannot give consent. Unconscious people cannot give consent. Someone with a concussion, seizure, or other health condition may not be able to give consent. Any person under 18 cannot give legal consent. A vulnerable adult, someone with diminished mental capacity, cannot give consent. If someone says no, you must stop immediately. But how do we recognize no? Well, it might not be as easy as you think, because there is more than one way to say no without actually using the word. Saying "I'm not sure." What if someone finds out? Not now. Turning away from a kiss or pulling away from a touch. These are all ways of saying no. Continuing to pressure a partner after any form of no may be considered coercion, which is a violation of the sexual misconduct policy. Proceeding in any sexual activity without consent is sexual assault under our policy and may also be a crime such as sexual battery or rape. Unfortunately, the use of rape drugs is a real risk. Deliberate use of alcohol or other drugs, including prescription or over-the-counter medications or substances, to perpetrate sexual violence carries additional penalties under the Utah Code. Remember, even if someone seems eager to engage in sexual behavior, doing so can legally be considered sexual assault or rape if he or she cannot legally give consent. For example, if both people are intoxicated, we may end up with allegations against both people for sexual assault or rape. UVU Policy 162 incorporated the term sexual misconduct as a broad term encompassing any non-consensual behavior of a sexual nature that is committed by force or intimidation or that is otherwise unwelcome. The term includes sexual assault, sexual exploitation, domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and sexual harassment. Sexual assault is a forcible or non-forcible sex offense, including actual or attempted sexual contact with another person without that person's consent. Examples of sexual assault under Utah law include non-consensual contact such as vaginal, anal, oral penetration by any body part or object, no matter how slight. Intentional and unwelcome touching, however slight, with any object or body part of the genital area, groin, inner thigh, buttocks, or breast. Sexual exploitation is behavior that involves non-consensual use of another's nudity or sexuality. Examples of sexual exploitation may include voyeurism or peering in on someone, invasion of sexual privacy, sharing information about another person's sexuality or speculating about their sexuality, administering alcohols or drugs to another person for the purpose of making that person vulnerable to non-consensual sexual activity, exposing one's genitals to another without consent, flashing or moving. Sexting. This is a private agreement between two people sharing. Without consent, sharing is a violation of the UVU policy. Prostituting another individual. Sexual trafficking. Now these two have a new twist. One partner asks another partner to have sex with others to show how much they love each other, while money is being exchanged behind their back. Finally, knowingly exposing another individual to sexually transmitted infection, virus, or disease without their knowledge. Stalking. Stalking is two or more unwanted contacts directed at a specific person that would cause them to fear for their life or their safety. Examples of stalking may include harassing, threatening, or intimidating in person, electronically, or through a third person. Following, observing, surveilling, or monitoring someone's daily actions. Delivering items to them. Communicating with a person either directly, indirectly, or through a third party. Much of this is done electronically when it comes to our students. Unfortunately, stalking is the #1 concern at UVU. And why does this happen? Well, it's usually because our college students don't quite realize when, no, I don't want to date you, or, gee, the relationship is over, is really what the person means. And so they continue to pursue and say, are you sure you really don't want to go out? Is it really, really over? I'm really waiting for you to change your mind. I really don't want to have to keep waiting. Are you sure? Are you sure? And so again, 2 or more unwanted contacts can constitute stalking. Sexual harassment. Now this is likely a slide you'll recognize from prior training, as this is the more typical type of misconduct we see in employment. We need to recognize that this can happen to our students as well. Sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual remarks, sexual advances, or requests for sexual favors, even if said jokingly. Examples of sexual harassment may include nonverbal conduct of a sexual nature, so staring or gesturing, remarks about clothing, body, or previous or future sexual activity, lewd or sexually suggestive comments, jokes, questions, or innuendos, unwelcome touching, patting, hugging, or brushing against a person's body, sexually graphic statements, texts, or depictions. So for example, the Playboy calendar on someone's personal computer or desk can be offensive. Please do your part to avoid this type of conduct in the workplace. Now let's talk about hostile environment. Both Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and Title IX of the Higher Education Act prohibit conduct that creates what's known as a hostile environment. This is actually a legal definition, and it is often misused when someone is unhappy with a particular interaction or thinks someone else does not like them. To create what is actually a hostile environment, there must be unwelcome verbal, physical, written, electronic, or nonverbal conduct of a sexual nature or related to an individual's sex, pregnancy, pregnancy-related condition, sexual orientation, or gender identity that is sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive to alter the conditions of employment or limit, interfere with, or deny educational benefits or opportunities. This means that someone who's just being mean is not creating what Policy 162 would consider a hostile environment. The actions or words must be based on sex or gender. So for example, discussing sexual activities repeatedly, asking about someone's sexual activities over the weekend, using indecent gestures or crude language about sex, displaying those sexually suggestive pictures. And yes, looking at the computer, searching on the internet could bring pop-ups that you did not intend that are actually pornographic or offensive. So be very careful what you're doing under the acceptable use policy. Asking whether a woman will keep the baby, whether she liked making the baby, and any type of unnecessary touching, whether intentional or not. Retaliation is strictly prohibited. Retaliation is intimidation, threats, harassment, or other material adverse reactions to employees making discrimination or harassment complaints or participating in an equal opportunity workplace investigation. There are two forms of retaliation: negative action and discouraging someone from exercising their right to report a concern. Examples of negative action include changing job duties, making schedule changes. Examples of discouraging reporting may include questions regarding what was or will be said. This has been determined by the U.S. Supreme Court as a possible way to chill or discourage someone from making a complaint or participating in an investigation. It is possible to retaliate against someone even if the investigation shows that there was no actual discrimination, harassment, or assault. Retaliating against someone is egregious and may result in discipline up to and including dismissal. So it is very, very important to adhere to the request for confidentiality, not to ask questions about anything related to an investigation, and not to talk about anything related to an investigation. Now, back to Casey and Casey. Casey has reported non-consensual touching to you, a policy violation of 162, even though it occurred off campus, not during a UVU activity, and she was intoxicated. This is also a crime of sexual battery. It was perpetrated by another UVU student. You realize this is a potential policy violation and a potential crime. What is your duty, and how can you help?